During my last round, I received a phone call expecting a client. Urgently, the voice on the other end said,
"Is this an insurance appraiser? Our crops have suffered severe damage from a recent hurricane. When can you come to evaluate so that I can get compensation for the damages?"
Usually, I would politely postpone for a later time. Surprisingly, however, this time I found myself asking for his name. Checking my list, I confirmed his name and address matched the location I planned to visit the next day. I informed the client that I'm currently at another site, but assured him that I would finish up quickly, urging him to stay at his field until I arrive. As I was about to get ready to go, I realized that I was running a bit late. I hastily got in the car, but it was getting darker. The timing was quite awkward. Would the photos come out okay if I go at this time? I was contemplating what to do. If I tell the client now that I won't be able to make it while he is waiting for me in the field, it would be too rude of me. I should just quickly go and take the photos, I thought to myself. As I followed the navigation, I passed the village and ended up on a slightly rugged path. It wasn't too treacherous, but some parts of the road had steep slopes. Despite the potential dangers, I continued for about 15 minutes until I noticed a pickup truck parked, indicating the right location. My client must have seen me coming because he came down the hill and complained, but in a polite way. He had been waiting for too long and expressed concerns about the safety of going down the hill to his home as it was getting dark. He proposed postponing the appraisal until the next morning, but I insisted and reassured him that it wouldn't take long. I didn't want to come back tomorrow, especially on this road. He pointed at his damaged crop field, and we went up together to begin the assessment. As I looked up, I saw damaged fields and an old house. "You have a house here too," I remarked. The client responded,
"It's a run-down house. You can't even call it a house. I just use it for storage or as a place to rest, not really a home."
He explained that it used to be his grandfather's place, where both he and his dad were born and raised. I quickly proceeded with the evaluation, taking photos and preparing to assess the crop damage. However, darkness came sooner than expected. I wondered if it would be safe for me to navigate the narrow, dark road. Meanwhile, my client made some coffee as I contemplated. I urged him that we should go back down quickly before it was too late. Concerned about the darkness and the narrow road, he too expressed his concern for safety. But instead of going back down, he decided to stay and spend the night at his rundown house, as he suffers from poor night vision. But for me, I had other places to visit the next day. Thus, I decided to head back and bid farewell. I came down and got into my car, then turned towards the road leading to the way out. The area illuminated by the headlights was unusually dark. Glancing back, I noticed that the spot where my client was and the area facing the field weren't as dim. I attributed the excessive darkness to the dense surrounding forest. Attempting to improve visibility, I switched on the high beams. However, despite the high beams, the darkness persisted beyond my expectations. The situation made me frustrated, and I blamed myself why I had decided to come instead of waiting until tomorrow. Realizing that traveling down the road under these conditions could lead to a serious accident, I decided to return to the house where my client was staying. Feeling helpless, I resolved to spend the night there and descend early the next morning. As I going up the road, I noticed a dim light in the house and saw my client moving around. I called out to him as I approached, and he looked at me with surprise.
"You didn't leave yet?"
Feeling a bit awkward, I asked if it would be all right for me to stay overnight. He responded with a big smile, saying,
"Sure, good thinking. Don't go down the dangerous road for no reason. Let's eat and sleep here tonight, and you can go down tomorrow morning."
I expressed my gratitude to him.
"I was about to cook some food for a dinner. I will make it quickly, so just wait a bit."
Once more, I thanked him. Sometime later, my client called me to join him for dinner. Upon entering the room, he informed me that there was only one available room, so we would have to share the space. We sat down and ate. Perhaps due to my hunger, it turned out to be the best dinner I had had in a long time. Midway through the meal, My client took out a bottle of alcohol and offered me a drink. While I enjoyed drinking, I politely declined as I had work scheduled for the next day. However, he insisted, saying that it would help me sleep better. Concerned about the following morning, I hesitated but eventually agreed. We engaged in small talk to pass the time. After a while, my client brought out another bottle, insisting that one wasn't enough. Politely, I declined, reiterating my need to organize documents and visit another client the next morning. Why does he insist on giving me more alcohol? Despite this, I didn't harbor any suspicions as our company had already provided information about him. Moreover, his age reminded me of my uncle, and the initial alcohol in my system had relaxed me a bit, so I continued to drink and engage in conversation. After our meal and drinks, my client said,
"Now that I have some alcohol, I will get some sleep. You sleep further inside. I'll take the spot by the door."
"I'm fine sleeping by the door. If I need to access any documents or attend to something in the car, I can quickly step out without disturbing you," I insisted.
"It's better if I sleep by the door,"
my client persisted. "No worries, once I fall asleep, nothing can wake me up," I reassured. But then, with a stern gaze, he instructed,
"Then listen carefully to what I'm about to say. Don't pay any attention to any noises you might hear while sleeping, and under no circumstances should you leave this room. If you hear something, pretend you didn't. If you don't hear anything, that's even better."
Considering we were deep in the mountains, I assumed it might be deer or other wild animals making the sounds and didn't think much of it. Not long after, my client began to snore and was fast asleep. Feeling tired from sorting through the documents, I decided to step outside for some fresh air and strolled around the house. While walking, I heard a sudden creaking noise from somewhere nearby. Puzzled, I wondered, what could that be? Assuming it might be a wild animal, given the mountainous surroundings, I cautiously made my way back toward the house. However, the creaking sound persisted. Suddenly, I noticed rustling in the bushes. I couldn't see it clearly, but I knew something was out there. I stopped and looked for the source of the noise, wondering what it was. It appeared as if it was jumping forward, getting closer. I assumed it was a deer or something, and I picked up a stone under my feet to throw. I expected it to run away, as deers often do. Surprisingly, instead of fleeing, it made a noise and jumped forward again. Perplexed, I threw another stone, but once again, it didn't run away. It jumped forward once more. Confused, I looked for a stick to scare it off or chase it away when it got closer. As I was picking up the stick, I saw something I had never seen before in my life. Standing tall right in front of me, it wasn't a deer. It was a disfigured man, standing on one foot, with his torso bent at a sharp angle and a tilted head, gazing down with his bloody eyes at me. In total shock, I fell backward. I couldn't speak or utter a word. I trembled with fear. Gradually, the disfigured man came closer, dangling his head as if it was just about to fall off. He moved closer, still dangling his head, and made that creaking noises with each jump forward. I was frozen in place, unable to scream. Suddenly, the door behind me swung open and my client came out shouting,
"What are you doing out here? Get back inside."
He grabbed the back of my shirt and pulled me inside the house. While inside, I was still trembling. He kept urging me to regain my senses. Gradually, my vision cleared, and he handed me a glass of water. My hand trembled, as did the water within the glass. My client took it back from my hand and fed me the water. As I drank, my senses started returning. Moments later,
"I guess you saw it too for sure,"
my client remarked as if he knew something already. As I regained my senses, I asked with a trembling voice, "Sir, what was—" Before I could even finish, he bluntly replied,
"It was a ghost. What did you think it was?"
He then insisted that I stay in the room regardless of any noises I might hear. I lay down, feeling a mix of fear and confusion. Strangely, the creaking sound vanished, replaced by an unsettling noise resembling someone jumping around a continuous sound that never faded, as if it were circling around the house. I tried hard not to pay any attention to the sounds. As time went by, my client began snoring. His snoring somewhat masked the noises from outside, which I found more comforting. Ironically, I had never before found someone snoring so soothing. Eventually, I managed to drift into sleep. I woke up abruptly. It was already morning. I hadn't slept well, evidenced by my pounding headache and the feeling of sluggishness and disorientation. Just then, my client offered me a cup of coffee, suggesting that I freshen up a bit and straighten my clothes. It was then that I noticed my hands were covered in dirt. A quick glance at my clothes and they too were stained with dirt. That's when I confirmed it wasn't a dream. My client continued explaining while sipping his coffee. That thing has been appearing around this area for a long time. His dad has seen it, as has his grandpa, but they have no idea exactly what it is, he said. He further explained that despite working as a farmer in this area, he had never seen the entity during the day. Strangely, it only appeared at night. He then asked if I had noticed the road earlier, mentioning that even when partially lit, it inexplicably became unusually dark. That's why he suggested I should have a drink, to ease the tension and have a deep sleep so that I wouldn't be awakened at night. He added that he is not particularly fond of alcohol either, but drinks it anyway to avoid any encounters by waking up in the middle of the night. As the conversation continued, I couldn't help but feel a mix of curiosity and fear.